Riley Carver's life was a glittering cage, and she was its most defiant prisoner. 17. She stood at the edge of her father's billion-dollar empire. Her name etched in gold but her heart scrawled in chaos. She failed every test, not just in math or literature, but in the unspoken exam of being the perfect daughter. The Carver estate loomed over Long Island like a monument to ambition, its marble halls echoing with expectations Riley could never meet. Her father, tech mogul Victor Carver, demanded perfection, a legacy to match his fortune. Her mother, a former model turned philanthropist, smiled for cameras but rarely at her daughter. Riley's latest report card, a constellation of FS, was just another crack in their polished facade. "You're a Carver," her father had bellowed last night, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. Failure isn't in our blood. But Riley felt like a fraud, drowning in a sea of expectations she couldn't navigate. At Sterling Academy, New York's most elite private school, Riley was both royalty and pariah. Her classmates whispered behind manicured hands, their eyes glinting with envy or pity. She slouched through the halls, her uniform a wrinkled rebellion against the school's pristine standards. Today, she sat in detention, her third this month, staring at a blank notebook. The room smelled of chalk, dust, and regret. Outside, the autumn leaves burned crimson, mocking her with their freedom. "You gonna write something? Or just glare at that page all day?" The voice was warm, unexpected, cutting through Riley's fog. She looked up to see Sam, the school's janitor, leaning against her broom. Sam was 30, with short black hair and a face that seemed to hold stories the way a library held books. Her navy jumpsuit was worn but clean, and her eyes sparkled with a quiet defiance Riley envied. "Why do you care?" Riley snapped, her voice sharper than intended. She regretted it instantly. Sam didn't flinch, just raised an eyebrow and swept a pile of dust into a neat line. "Because someone's gotta," Sam said simply. "And you look like you're carrying more than a bad grade." Riley's throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that, like she was more than a last name, more than a failure. She wanted to snap back, to hide behind her usual armor of sarcasm, but something in Sam's gaze stopped her. It was like being seen for the first time. Riley shoved her notebook into her bag and stood, her chair scraping the floor. "I don't need your pity," she said, but her voice wavered. She stormed out, her heart pounding. Outside, the courtyard was empty, the air crisp with the promise of change. She leaned against a tree, her breath visible in the chilly air, and wondered why Sam's words had shaken her so deeply. That night, Riley couldn't sleep. Her room, a shrine to excess with its silk drapes and designer furniture, felt suffocating. She scrolled through her phone, past the curated perfection of her classmates' lives, and found herself searching for something real. She didn't know what. Her fingers hovered over a group chat, then stopped. Her so-called friends were loyal only to her last name, and she was tired of their shallow orbit. The next day, Riley skipped her last class and wandered to the school's basement, where the hum of fluorescent lights mingled with the scent of cleaning supplies. She didn't know why she was there, only that she needed to see Sam again. The janitor was stacking chairs, her movements steady and sure. "You lost?" Sam asked, not looking up. "Maybe," Riley admitted, surprising herself. She leaned against a wall, her bravado crumbling. "I don't know how to do this. Any of it. Cool. Life. Being. Me." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she hated how small it made her feel. Sam set down a chair and turned, her expression soft but unflinching. "Nobody's born knowing how to live, kid. You learn by screwing up, then trying again." The trick is doing it proud. Riley frowned, confused, but Sam's words lodged in her chest like a seed. Proud. She'd never felt that. Not once. Over the next week, Riley found excuses to linger near Sam. She'd pretend to study in the courtyard while Sam swept leaves. Or she'd forget her books in the library, where Sam dusted shelves after hours. Sam never pushed. But she always had a question or a story, small things. Like how she'd once dreamed of being a painter, or how she'd grown up in a small town where everyone knew her secret before she did. What secret? Riley asked one day, her curiosity sharper than her caution. Sam smiled. A little sad. A little fierce. That I love who I love. And I don't hide it. Not anymore. Riley's heart skipped. She didn't know why. But those words felt like a key turning in a lock she hadn't known was there. By the end of the month, Riley's grades hadn't improved. But something else had. She started listening in class. Not for her father's approval, but because Sam had said, "You're smarter than you think. But you gotta show up for yourself first." It was the first time Riley believed she could be more than a failure. But the world wasn't done testing her. Not by a long shot. Riley's world began to shift. But not without friction. Her father's voice still echoed in her head. A relentless drumbeat of expectations. And Sterling Academy's halls were a battlefield of whispers and sidelong glances. Yet, in the quiet moments with Sam, Riley found a flicker of something new, hope. Maybe. Or the courage to ask questions she'd buried deep. The school's annual gala was approaching. A glittering event where Manhattan's elite mingled with Sterling's students to network and preen. Riley was expected to attend. To play the perfect Carver heir in a designer gown. She dreaded it. Last year, she'd spilled champagne on a senator's wife and fled to the bathroom. Her cheeks burning with shame. This year, her father had hired a tutor to drill her in etiquette. But Riley's mind wandered during lessons. Fixated on Sam's stories of small-town summers and stolen kisses under firefly-lit skies. One afternoon, Riley found Sam in the school's art room, scrubbing paint-splattered tables. The air smelled of turpentine and possibility. "You ever go to one of these galas?" Riley asked, picking at a chipped table edge. Sam laughed. A low, warm sound. "Me? Nah. I'd rather clean up after 'em than dress up for 'em." She paused, wiping her hands on her jumpsuit. "But I bet you could steal the show. If you wanted to." Riley snorted. "Yeah. By tripping over my dress or insulting some CEO." But Sam's words lingered. A challenge wrapped in kindness. Riley wanted to steal the show not for her father, but for herself. She just didn't know how. That night, Riley stood in her walk-in closet, surrounded by gowns that cost more than most people's rent. She pulled out a sleek black dress, simple but bold, and imagined walking into the gala with her head high. The fantasy dissolved when her mother knocked, her face a mask of practiced calm. "Your father expects you to impress the board members," she said. "No mistakes this time." Riley nodded, her stomach twisting. No mistakes. No Riley. School. The gala buzz was inescapable. Posters lined the halls, and her classmates planned their outfits with military precision. Riley felt like an outsider. As always. During lunch, she slipped away to the basement, where Sam was fixing a leaky pipe. "You hiding from something?" Sam asked, her voice muffled as she worked. "Maybe everything," Riley muttered. She sat on a crate, watching Sam's steady hands. "How do you do it?" "Just be yourself, no matter what anyone thinks." Sam straightened, wiping sweat from her brow. "Took me years to figure that out." Grew up in a town where being a lesbian was a sin to some, a joke to others. I tried hiding it. Being what they wanted made me miserable. She met Riley's eyes. Then I decided I'd rather be happy than perfect. Riley's chest ached. She'd never heard anyone talk like that, so raw, so unapologetic. She wanted to ask more, to understand the fire in Sam's voice. But the bell rang, pulling her back to class. That night, she lay awake, replaying Sam's words. Happy, not perfect. They felt like a lifeline. The gala arrived, a whirlwind of crystal chandeliers and fake smiles. Riley wore the black dress, her hair swept up, but her confidence faltered as she stepped into the ballroom. Her father's colleagues swarmed, their questions sharp and probing. What are your plans for college? How's the Carver legacy treating you? Riley stammered, her answers crumbling under their scrutiny. By the time she escaped to the balcony, her hands were shaking. She didn't expect to see Sam there, hauling a trash bin from the catering area. The janitor paused, her silhouette framed by city lights. Rough night? Sam asked, setting the bin down. Riley laughed bitterly. I'm bombing this, just like everything else. She hugged herself against the chill. I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere. Sam stepped closer, her voice steady. You belong wherever you choose to stand, Riley. But you gotta choose. She reached out, her hand brushing Riley's arm, a brief, electric touch that made Riley's breath catch. For a moment, the world was just them, the city's hum fading to a whisper. Riley wanted to say something, anything, but her throat closed. Sam smiled, soft and knowing, then picked up her bin and walked away. Riley stood frozen, her heart racing with a feeling she couldn't name. It wasn't just gratitude. It was bigger, scarier, and it followed her home like a shadow. The next day, Riley sought Sam out again, this time in the school's boiler room. The air was thick with heat and the clang of metal. I don't know what I'm doing, Riley blurted. I keep messing up. And I think I'm feeling things I shouldn't. Sam set down her wrench, her eyes gentle but searching. Feelings aren't wrong, Riley. They just are. The question is, what do you do with them? Riley's pulse thundered. She didn't have an answer, not yet, but Sam's words were a map, and she was starting to read it. Riley's world was unraveling, thread by fragile thread. The gala had exposed her cracks, but Sam's words, you belong wherever you choose to stand, clung to her like a lifeline. She was starting to see herself not as a failure, but as someone who could choose. The problem was, choosing felt like stepping off a cliff. At Sterling, the pressure mounted. Midterms loomed, and Riley's grades were a disaster. Her father had hired a team of tutors, each more impatient than the last, but their lessons felt like noise. She was drowning in formulas and essays, her mind elsewhere in Sam. On the way, her smile felt like a secret shared just with Riley. She'd never felt this before. This pull toward someone who saw her, not her last name. It scared her as much as it thrilled her. One rainy afternoon, Riley found Sam in the school's greenhouse, tending to neglected plants. The air was humid, thick with the scent of earth. Sam's sleeves were rolled up, her arms streaked with dirt, and Riley couldn't look away. You like this stuff? Riley asked, gesturing at the plants. Keeps me grounded, Sam said, pruning a wilted leaf. Plants don't judge. They just grow, if you give them a chance. She glanced at Riley, her eyes warm. Kinda like people. Riley's laugh was shaky. I'm not growing. I'm just stuck. She sat on a stool, her uniform damp from the rain. Everyone wants me to be someone I'm not. My dad. My mom. This school. I don't even know who I am. Sam set down her shears and leaned against a table. You're figuring it out. That's more than most people do at your age. She paused, her voice softening. When I was 17, I was terrified of who I was. Took me years to say it out loud. I'm a lesbian. And I'm proud of it. Scariest thing I ever did. But it set me free. Riley's heart thudded. The word lesbian hung in the air, heavy and bright. She'd heard it before, in whispers or jokes, but never like this, never with such quiet power. She wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but all she managed was, "How did you know?" Sam's smile was small, wistful. I felt something I couldn't ignore. For me, it was a girl in my art class. She made the world make sense. She looked at Riley, her gaze steady. You'll know when you feel it. And when you do, don't run from it. Riley's cheeks burned. She wanted to hide, to laugh it off. But Sam's words were a mirror, reflecting a truth she wasn't ready to face. She changed the subject, asking about the plants. But her mind was a storm. That night, she stared at her ceiling, replaying Sam's story. A girl in art class. A feeling she couldn't ignore. Riley's chest ached with something new. Something that felt like fear and hope tangled together. The next week was a blur of tests and tension. Riley failed her math midterm. Her father's fury a phone call away. You're embarrassing us. He snapped. Do better. Or you're out of Sterling. The threat was a knife to her gut. She couldn't lose the school not because of the prestige, but because of Sam. Desperate, Riley started studying in the library after hours, where Sam often cleaned. One evening, Sam found her surrounded by textbooks, her eyes red from frustration. You're trying too hard to be perfect, Sam said, sitting across from her. Start small. One problem at a time. Riley laughed. Bitter. Easy for you to say. You're not a carver. But she let Sam help. Their heads bent over a geometry problem. Sam's patience was a bomb. Her voice steady as she explained angles and proofs. For the first time, Riley understood something, not just math, but the power of someone believing in her. Their late-night study sessions became a ritual. Sam brought coffee. Riley brought questions. And the library became their sanctuary. One night, Riley's hand brushed Sam's as they reached for a pencil. The touch lingered. Electric. And Riley's breath caught. She pulled back. Her face hot. But Sam just smiled. Like she understood. The more time they spent together, the more Riley felt herself changing. She started speaking up in class. Her answers tentative but real. Her grades inched up. Not enough to impress her father, but enough to make her feel alive. Yet, the feelings stirring in her heart were harder to navigate. She caught herself watching Sam, memorizing the curve of her jaw, the way her laugh filled a room. It was more than admiration. It was something she didn't have a name for, not yet. But the world wasn't kind to secrets. One day, a classmate caught Riley lingering near Sam in the courtyard. Their laughter too bright. Too close. By lunch, the whispers had spread. Riley's got a crush on the janitor. The words were a punch. Sharp and public. Riley fled to the bathroom. Her heart pounding. Shame and defiance warring inside her. She didn't know what she felt. But she knew it was her sin. She wasn't ready to share it with the world. The whispers at Sterling grew louder. A chorus of judgment that followed Riley like a shadow. She walked through the halls with her head down. Her bravado replaced by a raw, aching vulnerability. The rumor about her and Sam wasn't just gossip, it was a spotlight on feelings she hadn't yet named. Feelings she wasn't sure she could claim. She avoided Sam for days, skipping their study sessions and dodging the courtyard. The library felt too exposed. The greenhouse too intimate. Riley buried herself in schoolwork, trying to outrun the chaos in her heart. But the more she hid, the more she felt like a coward. Sam's words echoed, "Don't run from it." Yet running was all Riley knew how to do. Her father noticed the change. Dinner. His eyes narrowed over his wine glass. "You're distracted," he said, his voice cold. "Is it a boy? Some teenage fling?" Riley's stomach churned. She mumbled something about exams and fled to her room. A boy. If only it were that simple. One evening, unable to stand the silence, Riley slipped into the school's auditorium after hours. The stage was empty, lit only by a single ghost light. She sat in the front row, her thoughts a tangle. She didn't hear Sam approach until the janitor spoke. "You've been avoiding me," Sam said, her voice gentle but firm. She sat beside Riley, leaving a careful distance between them. Riley's throat tightened. "Everyone's talking. They think I'm into you." She forced a laugh, but it came out broken. "It's stupid, right?" Sam didn't laugh. She leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. "Is it?" The question was soft, but it hit Riley like a tidal wave. She wanted to deny it, to push Sam away, but the truth was clawing its way out. She liked Sam more than liked her. The realization was terrifying, exhilarating, a spark in the dark. "I don't know what I'm doing," Riley whispered. I'm not like you. I'm not brave." Tears stung her eyes, and she hated them. She hated how small she felt, how the world seemed to demand she choose between who she was and who she wanted to be. Sam's hand hovered, then rested lightly on Riley's shoulder. "You don't have to be like me. You just have to be you. And that's enough." The touch was brief, but it burned through Riley's defenses. She wanted to lean into it, to let Sam's warmth anchor her, but fear held her back. The next day, Riley faced Sterling with new resolve. She ignored the whispers, holding her head high as she walked to class. In English, she raised her hand for the first time, her voice shaking but clear as she answered a question about The Great Gatsby. Her teacher's surprise was a small victory, a crack in the wall of her failures. She wasn't fixed, but she was fighting. That afternoon, she found Sam in the courtyard, sweeping leaves into neat piles. "I'm sorry I ghosted you," Riley said, her hands stuffed in her pockets. "I got scared." Sam nodded, her eyes kind. "It's okay to be scared. Just don't let it win." She handed Riley a rake, a silent invitation. They worked side by side, the rhythm of their movements a quiet conversation. For the first time, Riley felt like she belonged not to her father's empire, but to this moment, this person. Their friendship deepened, a fragile bridge between their worlds. Sam shared more stories of her first love, of coming out to her family, of the freedom that came with living true. Riley listened, her heart a sponge, soaking up every word. She started to see herself in Sam's stories, in the courage it took to love without shame. But love was a word she wasn't ready to say, even to herself. The school's winter formal was announced, a glitzy event that doubled as a fundraiser. Riley's classmates buzzed with excitement, but she felt only dread. Her father expected her to attend with a suitable date, someone to boost the Carver image. The thought made her skin crawl. She didn't want a date chosen for optics, she wanted Sam. The realization hit her hard. A truth she couldn't unsee. She confessed it to Sam one night in the library, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I like you. Like, really like you. Her face burned, her hands trembling as she waited for rejection, for the world to crash down. Sam's smile was soft, careful. I'm flattered, Riley. I am. But you're young. And I'm me. This isn't simple. Her words were gentle, but they stung. Riley nodded, swallowing her disappointment. She didn't push, didn't beg. She just wanted Sam to know. The rejection hurt, but it didn't break her. Instead, it lit a fire. Riley started pouring herself into her studies, not for her father, but for herself. She aced a history quiz, then a literature essay. Her teachers noticed, their praise a new kind of pressure one she welcomed. She was still a mess, still unsure, but she was moving forward. And Sam, despite the boundaries, was still there, a steady presence in a world that felt too big. Riley's confession hung between her and Sam like a fragile thread, neither broken nor strong enough to hold weight. Sam's gentle rejection had bruised her, but it also freed her. For the first time, Riley wasn't running from her feelings, she was facing them, raw and unpolished, and it made her feel alive. Winter descended on New York, blanketing Sterling Academy in frost and holiday anticipation. The winter formal loomed, a glittering obligation Riley couldn't escape. Her father had arranged for her to attend with Ethan, the son of a business partner, a boy whose smile was as polished as his resume. Riley agreed, not because she wanted to, but because defying her father felt like a battle she wasn't ready to fight. Not yet. School. Riley's progress was undeniable. Her grades climbed, slow but steady, and her teachers began to see her as more than a carver. She spoke up in class, her voice growing stronger, her answers sharper. But the whispers about her and Sam hadn't stopped. They'd evolved, laced with crueler edges. She's confused. One classmate sneered. Just a rich girl playing rebel. Riley ignored them, but each word was a needle, pricking at her newfound confidence. She sought Sam out less, respecting the boundaries Sam had set, but their moments together still sparked something in her. One snowy afternoon, Riley found Sam in the school's storage room, sorting decorations for the formal. Tinsel glittered in Sam's hair, catching the dim light. You going to this thing? Riley asked, her tone light but her heart heavy. Sam chuckled. Not my scene. I'll be here, cleaning up glitter for days. She paused, her eyes softening. You'll do great, though. Just be you. Riley wanted to say she didn't know who you was, but she was starting to. She was the girl who'd failed every test but kept trying. The girl who felt too much and wasn't ashamed of it. She was the girl who looked at Sam and saw a future she hadn't dared imagine. The night of the formal, Riley stood in her room, the mirror reflecting a stranger in a sapphire gown. Ethan arrived, all charm and confidence, but his presence felt like a costume she was forced to wear. At the dance, the ballroom sparkled with wealth and ambition, but Riley's eyes kept drifting to the edges, where Sam worked quietly, moving tables and clearing plates. Their gazes met once, brief and electric, and Riley's heart stuttered. Halfway through the night, Ethan's hand lingered too long on her waist, his conversation a drone of college plans and stock portfolios. Riley excused herself, fleeing to the balcony. The cold bit at her skin, but it was better than the suffocation inside. She didn't expect Sam to follow, but there she was, her jumpsuit a stark contrast to the gala's opulence. You okay? Sam asked, her breath visible in the freezing air. Riley shook her head. I'm tired of pretending. I don't want to be here with him. I want. She stopped, her courage faltering. Sam waited, her silence an invitation. Riley took a breath. I want to be brave. Like you. I want to be proud. Sam's smile was a sunrise. You already are. She stepped closer, her hand brushing Riley's. This time, Riley didn't pull away. The touch was a promise, possibility, and it steadied her. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Riley danced with Ethan, smiled for photos, and played her part, but her heart was elsewhere. She was done hiding, not from her father, not from Sterling, not from herself. The next day, she found Sam in the courtyard, the snow dusting her shoulders like confetti. I'm going to tell my parents, Riley said, her voice firm. Not everything. Not yet. But I'm done being their puppet. Sam's nod was small, but her eyes shone with pride. It was enough. Riley's confrontation with her parents was a storm. Her father raged. Her mother withdrew. But Riley stood her ground. I'm not your legacy, she told them. I'm me. The words felt like breaking chains. They didn't understand, not yet, but Riley didn't need their approval. She needed her own. School. She threw herself into her studies with a ferocity that surprised even her. She aced a math test, then a science project. Her teachers praised her. But it was Sam's quiet encouragement that mattered most. They didn't talk about Riley's confession, but the air between them was charged. A silent acknowledgement of something growing. As winter deepened, Riley began to explore her identity. She read books about love and identity, watched videos of people living openly, proudly. She wasn't ready to label herself, but she was ready to feel. And what she felt for Sam was real, a beacon in the fog of her life. She didn't know where it would lead, but she was done being afraid of the journey. Spring arrived in New York, a burst of color and possibility that mirrored Riley's transformation. She was no longer the girl who failed every test. She was the girl who fought for herself, who dared to feel, who dared to dream. But growth wasn't a straight line, and Riley's journey was far from over. Her confrontation with her parents had shifted something fundamental. Her father's threats to pull her from Sterling quieted, replaced by a tense silence. Her mother began to ask questions, small, hesitant ones about Riley's sudden drive. Riley didn't share everything, but she shared enough. She wanted to be her own person, not a Carver pawn. It was a start. School. Riley's grades soared. She wasn't perfect, but she was consistent. Her effort a rebellion against her old self. Her classmates noticed, some with admiration, others with resentment. The whispers about her and Sam persisted, but Riley let them slide off her like rain. She had bigger battles to fight. Sam remained her anchor, their connection a quiet constant. They didn't cross the line Riley had drawn with her confession, but their moments together in the library, the courtyard, the greenhouse were charged with unspoken possibility. Sam was careful, always keeping a respectful distance, but her presence was a gift Riley cherished. One April afternoon, Riley found Sam painting a mural in the school's art room, a vibrant scene of a small-town sunset. You're good, Riley said, awed by the colors. Why don't you do this for a living? Sam shrugged, her brush pausing. Life doesn't always let you choose your dreams. But I paint when I can. Keeps me whole. She looked at Riley, her eyes warm. What's your dream, Riley? The question caught her off guard. She'd spent so long running from expectations that she hadn't dared dream for herself. I don't know, she admitted. But I want to find out. Sam's nod was enough. She didn't need Riley to have all the answers. Just the courage to ask the questions. That courage led Riley to a decision. She joined Sterling's art club. A small act of defiance against her father's insistence on practical pursuits. The club was a haven. A place where she could sketch and create without judgment. She wasn't Sam's level of talent. But she loved the feel of charcoal on paper. The way it let her express what words couldn't. One evening, the art club hosted an open mic night. A mix of poetry, music, and performance. Riley signed up on impulse, her heart pounding as she stepped onto the stage. She read a poem she'd written. A raw, halting piece about feeling lost and finding herself. The room was silent, then erupted in applause. Sam was there, in the back, her smile brighter than the stage lights. Riley's chest swelled with pride, not the hollow kind her father demanded, but the real kind, born of being true. The poem spread through Sterling like wildfire. Some called it brave. Others called it reckless. But Riley didn't care. She was done hiding. She started wearing her uniform with a flare of her own bright pins. A leather bracelet, small rebellions that screamed, "I'm here." Her classmates began to see her differently. Not as the billionaire's daughter, but as Riley. Unapologetic and alive. Her feelings for Sam grew stronger. A quiet fire she no longer fought. She didn't push. Didn't ask for more than Sam could give. But she let herself feel it fully. One day, in the greenhouse, she handed Sam a sketch she'd drawn, a portrait of her, broom in hand, framed by autumn leaves. "This is how I see you," Riley said, her voice steady, strong, real. Sam's eyes softened, and for a moment, Riley thought she might say something more. Instead, she took the sketch, her fingers brushing Riley's. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick. It was enough. As graduation neared, Riley faced a new challenge: college applications. Her father pushed for Ivy League schools, but Riley had other plans. She applied to a small liberal arts college with a strong art program, a place where she could explore who she was without her last name defining her. When she told her parents, her father scoffed, but her mother's silence held a flicker of respect. Riley's final weeks at Sterling were a whirlwind of exams and emotions. She aced her finals, not for her father, but for herself. She spent every spare moment with Sam, soaking up her stories, her laughter, her quiet strength. She didn't know what the future held for them, but she knew Sam had changed her. She'd taught her to live proud, to love true, even if that love was still a question mark. Graduation day arrived, a milestone Riley once thought she'd never reach. The Sterling Academy auditorium was a sea of caps and gowns, the air thick with anticipation and the weight of endings. Riley stood among her classmates, her heart a mix of triumph and uncertainty, her eyes searching for Sam in the crowd. She'd passed every final, not with perfect scores, but with a pride that felt better than perfection. Her college acceptance letter had arrived at a small school in upstate New York, far from her father's empire. It was her choice, her future, and for the first time, she felt ready to claim it. The ceremony was a blur of speeches and applause, but Riley's mind was elsewhere. She thought of the girl she'd been a year ago, lost, angry, drowning in expectations. She thought of Sam, the janitor who'd seen her when no one else had, who'd taught her the secret of living proud. She wanted to find her, to say thank you, to say something that could capture what Sam meant to her. After the ceremony, Riley slipped away from the crowd, her cap still clutched in her hand. She found Sam in the courtyard, sweeping confetti from the cobblestones. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, a mirror to the mural Sam had painted months ago. "You made it," Sam said, her smile warm and proud. "Thanks to you," Riley said, her voice thick. She stepped closer, her heart pounding. "You changed everything, Sam. You showed me how to be me." Sam set down her broom, her eyes searching Riley's. "You did that yourself, kid. I just gave you a nudge." She paused, her voice softening. "I'm proud of you." Riley's throat tightened. She wanted to say more, to confess the depth of her feelings, but she knew Sam's boundaries. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small canvas painting of the courtyard, vibrant and alive, with a tiny figure sweeping in the corner. "For you," Riley said. "To remember me." Sam's fingers brushed Riley's as she took the canvas, and for a moment, the world held its breath. "I could never forget you," Sam said, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a weight to her words, a promise of something that might have been, in another time, another place. They stood there, the distance between them both infinite and non-existent. Riley wanted to close it, to take Sam's hand, but she knew this wasn't their story, not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was enough to know she could love, that she could feel this deeply and not break. The next week, Riley packed for college, her room no longer a cage but a stepping stone. Her parents were still distant, their approval a work in progress, but Riley didn't need it anymore. She had herself, and that was enough. She wrote Sam a letter, not a confession, but a thank you, a promise to live proud, to love true, wherever life took her. On her last day in New York, Riley visited Sterling one final time. The courtyard was quiet, the leaves green with summer. Sam wasn't there, but the bench was, its plaque glinting in the sun, live proud, love true. Riley traced the words with her finger, her heart full. She didn't know if she was a lesbian, or something else entirely. She was still figuring that out. But she knew she was Riley, and she was enough. Years later, Riley would return to New York, a young artist with a portfolio full of color and a heart full of courage. She'd find Sam at an art gallery, her paintings on display, her smile as warm as ever. They'd talk for hours, not as student and janitor, but as equals, their connection a thread that time couldn't break. And Riley would know, with every brushstroke of her life, that Sam had taught her the secret of living proud, not just in love, but in every breath, every choice, every step into the unknown.